All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is the Year in Music with DL. Today, I have a special guest, the proprietor of Big Daddy Entertainment, the Big Daddy himself, Chris Turcotte. Chris, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. So, as with people that I have on the show, I suggest to them they come on the podcast. They pick the year, and Chris, the year you picked.
1978.
One of my all-time. For the longest time, I just have to say, for the longest time, 78 was my all-time favorite year in music. It was. It's not anymore.
All right.
We still accept your answer as
I appreciate it. I won't hold it against you.
All righty, so let's hear it. Let's hear 78's impact on Chris Turcotte, Big Daddy.
Well, I'll tell you, I was 9 years old, so just very impressionable, and it was a perfect time. When I was 8, my cousin gave me Kiss albums and said he had outgrown them. So by the time I was 9, in like a matter of 6 months, you had Kiss coming out with Alive 2, then Double Platinum.
I believe Alive 2 was released in 77, but yes, it was the big album.
The 4 solo albums came out, so it was like Christmas all year long. That was a treasure trove. But and then you had soundtracks were the huge thing in 78. You had Grease.
I believe Kiss had a song called Strutta 78.
Yeah, oh God, that was just terrible.
It was.
That was sometimes when you remake something and you don't have to and you shouldn't have. That was one of those cases.
So what was the first album you owned in 1978 as an impressionable 9-year-old that came out that year?
I'm going to have to say the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band soundtrack. And that was with the Bee Gees, Peter Frampton. It had, who else was on there? You had Aerosmith, Earth, Wind, and Fire. So, I mean, it was a who's who. And the only person it's funny, the only person whose career never recovered from it was Peter Frampton.
When was I'm in You? Was that 79 or 77?
That's a good question.
I don't care. I used to love I'm in You. Sgt. Pepper for me was I avoided it at all costs. It seemed campy. And I was only 10 in 78.
Well, you had to stay away from the movie and gravitate more towards the soundtrack. And I think I appreciated the updated production of the Beatles classics, revisited with the Bee Gees harmonies and the Barry's falsetto warbling.
Plus, I mean, still riding the wave from Saturday Night Fever from 77. Those guys were still on top.
Grease, I think, came out in 78 also.
Grease.
Yeah, and that was a monster. That was another Bee Gees association there. So
in 78 I too had Kiss Alive too, and the records from 77 from Kiss. In 78 I got Foreigner Double Vision.
Oh, now you're talking.
As my first non-Kiss record.
Right.
My older brother that year got Some Girls from the Rolling Stones.
Yep.
So those two records really had a heavy influence on my 1978. Not to mention the pop music of that time was just outstanding, just on point. But my brother also was a Bruce fan.
Okay.
My brother bought Elvis Costello's This Year's Model, which is the best Elvis album still to this day.
Great album.
And there was a lot of stuff going on because I was becoming aware of music. And I remember my older brother was like, I would say to him, well, what should I listen to? And he was like, there's a new band called Van Halen.
Oh, there you go.
78 was Van Halen 1. It was also...
it's funny. I'm a Kiss fan, Dave, and I was afraid of Van Halen for some reason. I heard the guitars, and it was just, what is that?
Yeah.
Ace would take one note and make it sing for the whole solo, and then you got Eddie who comes along and he plays faster than you can even think.
They were like the Greyhound dogs off Butte.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't understand him. I was afraid of him, and I go back and I listen to those albums now, and it's just
A
gold.
lot of big things were happening those years, though. Think about it. The Police came out with Outlandos D'Amour.
Sure.
So BCN was like on top of its game. You had the Cars' first album came out.
Yeah. Don't forget you had Time for Me to Fly with REO Speedwagon.
I've been trying to forget. I've been in therapy trying to forget
Come
that.
on now. Billy Joel with 52nd Street.
My sister got that album that year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zanzibar, Rosalinda's
Sure.
Eyes. I love
Honesty was
that
on
record.
that. Big Shot.
Honesty, Stiletto.
Oh, great. And then you got your lesser hits. You got your Radio with Jack and Jill with Ray Parker Jr.
Now, there was another band that really influenced me from this year, and that band was Devo.
Okay. Yeah.
They came out with Are We Not Men, We Are Devo, which was
Yeah.
a phenomenal record. Blondie had Parallel Lines this year. I thought the next year in 79 they put out a better album. I also think, I mean, and on that note, I think Devo and I think the Cars put out better albums in 79. But I do think the Police Outlandos D'Amour did not get topped until 81.
Yeah.
Who had Who Are You? It was the last album with Keith Moon.
Right. Then you had Journey with Infinity.
Infinity, yes, it was 78 with Ainsley Dunbar still on drums.
Yep.
That was a great record. Also, another one of my all-time favorite albums is an album by Tom Waits called Blue Valentines.
Yes. Tom Waits.
I
Great
love
album.
Valentines. It a gracious Buick. It's got four holes in the side, Charlotte Lyles into the top of an avocado tree. Mrs. Storm will stab you with a steak knife. You step out of lawn. Arguably, the greatest live album was also released on this year, which was Live and Dangerous by Thin Lizzy. Or as they like to say, Tin Lizzy.
Very nice. And don't forget you had Dire Straits came up. Sultans of Swing.
Oh, your favorite Rush Hemispheres came out in
Hemispheres
78.
with La Via Strangata. And songs I still can't understand. The Trees.
Oh, Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
Blondes Have More Fun.
Yeah.
Ain't Love Bitch on that record. I love it.
Barry Manilow. You got to love him. Even now. I Make You Love Him.
Out the Barry. I love it. So, you know, it was always on the radio. And this guy's album, back then, it's funny because you know how the radio works. It's like an album comes out, they bang out 4 or 5 songs, get constant rotation on the radio, and then boom, we're done. And now there's 2 songs playing for the rest of his career, and it's 2 off that album. But Jerry Rafferty's album, City to City, Baker Street, Right Down the Line. But when it came,
Right Down the Line, great song.
Was a hit. Home and Dry was a hit when it came out. If we're talking about some funk stuff, Funkadelic One Nation Under a Groove came out this year. And so did the first, was it the first Chic album? Or was it the one with, La Freak?
Freak. Yeah, that was 78. Donna Summer was on Top of the World.
Let me just do my Casey Kasem for you.
Okay, here we go.
In this year, 1978, this is a year where it's only happened a few times in history where a woman was at number 1 and she got bumped off by another woman. In this year, Donna Summer took number 1 with MacArthur Park. She knocked off this lady from Canada. I cried a tear.
Oh, Anne Murray.
She knocked off Anne Murray off number 1.
I liked him. Anne Murray, I never really cared for him.
Oh, God. Can I have this? Yeah, she was very matronly.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll tell you now, one of your favorite bands, and I'm not kidding, came out with a great album this year. In fact, I would have thought they had 2 albums this year, but they probably had 2 albums in 77. But the album Heaven Tonight came out in 1978.
It did. Yes, it
Cheap
did.
Trick. and it's a phenomenal record. I mean, the down inside, you're getting. I mean, every song on that record's great. That is, folks, if you don't have Heaven Tonight by Cheap Trick, get out of the
Yeah.
house once in a while.
Yeah.
It's a record you should have.
Well, it's possible that they didn't have that because, even with the blonde hair, they're probably gravitating towards Sean Cassidy and Leif Garrett, and
Yeah.
maybe even Andy Gibb at that point. So maybe Cheap Trick might have been not their flavor, but revisit it. Great album.
AC/DC that year had the album Powerage.
Yep.
And that is my favorite. Well,
Incorrectly referred to as Power Age to anyone who, it's.
oh, really?
But yeah, people call it Power Age all the time. It's like
The album's phenomenal.
folks.
And there was a few albums out this year that I absolutely loved. And I think a lot of artists in general put out phenomenal stuff in 78. And being a somewhat an okay Joe Walsh fan,
Yeah.
I think that, but seriously, folks, is a perfect album from
That was
1970.
Life's Been Good. Is that one of the songs?
And Good is on the record. At the Station is on this album.
Yeah.
Secondhand Store, Over and Over. It's just a great record. And speaking of a bad album this year, Boston's second record came out.
Well, they didn't want to release it in '78. If Tom Schultz had his way, he probably still wouldn't release it.
Right. And probably would have been right.
Yeah.
Rainbow had Long Live Rock and Roll.
Now, was that the last album with Dio?
That is the last album with Dio. And it's probably my favorite. I go back and forth between that and Rainbow Rising. But Long Live Rock and Roll had Lady of the Lake, which I loved because it was a complete ripoff of the Wanton song by Zeppelin.
Right.
And Gates of Babylon. There's some great songs on that record.
Oh, yeah. And if you're going to be in 78, then you got to flip over the AM portion of it and go with some England Dan and John Ford Coley.
Did they have something out that year?
Some things don't come easy.
You know what song I hated in 78?
What's that?
And I think it's from 78. I have to look. The song's Still the Same by Bob Seger.
Oh, Seger, yeah.
Is it on Stranger in Town? Stranger in Town came out in 78.
Give me
Still
like a
the
number any day of the week.
Old Time Rock and Roll. His two worst songs came out that year.
Yeah.
Which is odd because I love the year.
Yep.
I love that year. I do love the year in music. I think 78 is fantastic.
It's just it's so diverse and all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, well, punk was coming up. In 77 you had the Sex Pistols, so the Clash was getting better in 78. The Ramones came out with a record then.
You got Dr. Hook, you got Captain Tennille, you got, Carpenter's Christmas. Come on.
You just mentioned Dr. Hook with Dennis Lokieri.
It did.
When you're in love, sharing the night together.
Squeeze came out in 78.
78 was the first album, absolutely.
Genesis have something out that year? I thought Genesis.
They came out with a record called, And Then There Were Three.
By Peter Gabriel.
Oh, Gabriel left before that. And Then There Were Three was not the actual leaving of Peter Gabriel. It was the leaving of Steve Hackett.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
They got knocked down to a four-piece band when Gabriel left.
Now, was Abacab on that, or is that later?
No, Abacab's on Abacab. That's 81.
81. All right.
Yeah. I mean, And Then There Were Three, if I'm not mistaken, has Follow You, Follow Me.
Paper Late. When does that?
Paper Late's way later. That's in the 80s.
All right. Might have been one of those K-Tel releases.
Paper Late. Ooh, I'm sorry, but it was so many new stuff was coming out. I think Tom Petty might have had a record this year.
Yeah.
His big one was 79, but I think he had one in 78.
I think you're right. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Cheap Trick released Surrender this year in 78, but really didn't become famous until they did it live at Budokan, right?
The Budokan tour, wasn't that them opening for Kiss?
I believe it was, yeah.
That's why the crowd went bananas.
Of course.
At least that's what I think. Peter Gabriel's second album came out with DIY. I liked that record. Oh, and Todd Rundgren came out with Hermit
Uh,
at Ink Hollow with Can We Still Be Friends?
just just a perfect year for if you're into just all genres of music. This is that was the time to listen. And it was one of the things
Absolutely.
too, especially like an album like I remember because you used to put the albums on and they would fall. You could stack them and they'd and one at a time, and you just played them all the way through, and that's when you found the deep cuts, and you just
Yeah.
where did this stuff come from?
Yeah, the Jacksons had an album this year, Destiny with Shake Your Body Onto the Ground,
Still a floor banger. Still people still dance to that.
and a song that we play with Funk Station
Yeah.
is All Night
Shameless
Dancing off
plug.
that album,
Go ahead.
which I believe Prince kind of stole when he did the song "Do It All Night" on the Dirty Mind album.
Yeah, but
Prince
you know,
Prince for You came out this year.
what's original these days? I defy you to find something that doesn't sound like something else. So and Prince is talented enough. I cut him a little bit of slack for that, but you might be right with that.
Oh, 6 Pieces of 8, folks. Renegade, Blue
It's
Collar Man, Sing for the Day.
back when they still had guitars in their music. And
Oh,
before,
Queen Jazz came out this year too,
okay,
which had Don't Stop Me Now. I'm having such a good I love that song. Great record.
that was actually voted the most uplifting song in history. They did a poll on that. People just said that's the feel good song of in history is put on "Don't Stop Me Now" and they defy you to be in a bad mood.
Really?
Yeah,
And Peter Chris's album came out that year, which you mentioned.
yeah, which later on became the cure for insomnia, which
It
was
sure did. Till this show came out.
I love them, but man, that was just a clunker of an album.
It's funny. A lot of people make a big deal about Warren Zevon. I never got it. I
Yeah,
never got it. Doesn't and the Talking Heads had an album out this year, and for me, their career didn't start till Remain in Light for me.
fair enough. Their career still hasn't started for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have no use for them. Everybody, everybody has a different taste, but they've never done anything for me. They certainly don't light my world on fire, even if they burn down the house.
awful. Folks, are you getting these references? Are you taking notes? This is ooh, Music for Airports, #1 by Brian Eno came out that year. That album really never took off.
No,
Thank you, folks. That's
yeah.
it's an airport joke. The Last Waltz came out by the band in 1978.
Oh, look at that.
Judas Priest Stained Class. I wasn't ever a big fan of that record. That was a 78 release here. I still think Blue Valentines, folks, the takeaway, because at the end of this, we have to give our top three. We suggest 3 albums from 78 for somebody to listen to.
Fair
And I'll
enough.
tell you right now, they'll come hunt you down if you tell them it's the solo albums from Kiss.
Oh no, it's not. Well, if you listen, one of them is Paul Stanley's solo album. Then I invite you to go listen to that. But and you find out where the talent was in the band right from the jump. Stay away from jeans.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
and
Bruce Springsteen released 2 albums this year in 78. He released Heart of Stone under the name Southside Johnny and the Ashbury Jukes. Oh, God. Talk about riding coattails. I don't know
right?
how that Springsteen could walk down the street in the 70s. He had him and Beaver Brown on his coattails.
Oh my goodness.
Southside. Ooh, a great album. An American Prayer by The Doors. Folks, if you're not familiar with this album, just imagine. Jim Morrison dies in the early 70s. There's countless recordings of him reciting poetry, and they decide they're going to take that poetry and put music to it as like soundscapes to his stories. And it's the best Doors album, period. It's phenomenal.
That's
Came
great.
out in 78.
I've never heard it. I might actually like it.
Oh no, it's really great. It's really great. Toto's first album, 1978. Hold the Line. What was the other big hit on that album? There's another one. I Love You Are the Flower. Georgie Porgy. If you don't think Georgie Porgy was a big hit for them, it later was a big hit for Janet Jackson when she called it "That's the Way Love Goes."
Oh, God. That's
Uh,
fantastic.
Killing Machine by Judas Priest. Now I liked that album. Animal House, wasn't that 78? I think I was 10 years.
Yeah, let's say soundtracks were huge in '78.
Yeah. And what's his name was in that movie? Stephen Bishop. David Gilmour's solo album.
I loved that song.
Oh no, I'm telling you, his solo record,
Yeah.
it's absolutely fantastic. Mihalis is on that record. Raise My Rent, short and sweet. Folks, if you don't have this album, I know a company that will give you 10 cassettes or 8 tracks for a penny. There's just a slight commitment that's going to follow.
That was always the running joke whenever bands at the rehearsal studios would tell you that, hey, we signed a record deal, and we would always say, oh yeah, you only have to buy 3 records at the regular club prices next year.
Exactly. That's like an old Rodney joke. I just signed a 3-year contract with General Motors. I bought a new car. Folks, Minute by Minute came out in 78.
Ooh, that's a doobies.
That is a phenomenal record. It's got the song Minute by Minute, What a Fool Believes. This is the height of yacht rock. This is Loggins and Michael McDonald making amends, writing songs together, Here to Love You. I mean, this record is unbelievable. One of the best. Ted Templeman was making smooth music that year, but then he worked with Van Halen, and anyone that's seen the yacht rock videos on YouTube know the joke. London Town by Wings.
Okay.
I believe this album, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that had the Girlfriend on this album. With a Little Luck is on London Town.
Okay, yeah, that's a good song.
Tormato by Yes was 78.
Well, you say Tomato.
I would say Don't Buy It. Oh, that Black Sabbath album, Never Say Die. God, they wish they could take that back.
Yeah.
That stinks.
Rubbish.
Oh, yeah, Grease, A Dog and Butterfly by Heart came out in 78.
Heart, yeah. Dog and Butterfly.
Backless by Eric Clapton, which had I don't care what you say about me. I don't care if you just keep on doing, because I don't love you when you don't love me. If You Want Blood, You've Got It, the live AC/DC album. Folks, lock up your daughters. AC/DC is crushing it. Yeah, they were unbelievable that year.
Great album. Great album.
Folks, if you've never seen the album cover from 1978 to John Prine's Bruised Orange, rush out to your local Strawberries records and tapes and say, what year did you guys close? No, seriously, the mustache hairdo, it's unbelievable. Zappa had a couple of records. I see Zappa in New York, and Studio Tan was in 78. The Kinks' Misfits came out that year, which I love that song. That's one of my favorites for the Kinks. Inner Secrets by Santana was out that year, too. And Molly Hatchet's first album, which had Dreams I'll Never See. Where else can you think of a song? Now, this has nothing to do with years, but this is a band that does a cover song, Dreams I'll Never See, better than the original, because the Allman Brothers version sounds like a funeral dirge. Ted Nugent, Double Live Gonzo that year.
Oh, yeah. I think Ted was my first non-Kiss exposure besides Van Halen. The same people who gave me the Kiss albums because they outgrew them.
Yeah.
They immediately segued from Kiss to Ted Nugent. So everything was Ted Nugent. And he was just, to me, he was just crazy. Just wide-eyed and, with his long hair. So,
you know what came out that year was Wavelength by Van Morrison.
Yes.
And your favorite, The Gambler.
Oh, gotta love Kenny.
Ooh, Time Passages. Al Stewart
Time
came out.
passages.
Buy me a ticket on the last train home tonight. Scorpions, Tokyo Tapes. Phenomenal live.
Featuring one of the guitar players that you like, but not the other.
Uli Roth is on there. I love Uli Roth. He's great.
Okay.
Looks like Some Enchanted Evening by Blue Oyster Cult came out, but I'm not sure what's on that record. And according to Blue Oyster Cult, neither are they.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Ooh, Bebop Deluxe came out with Drastic Plastic. Now, I'm a huge Bill Nelson fan. Generation X also came out that year with Billy Idol. Even Billy Idol gets it. Oh, Wishbone Ash came out with an album that year, and apparently nobody still knows. Folks, this guy likes like some of the stuff that you would just throw the pitch down and you know he's going to like it. And then sometimes you say something where you think he's going to love it, and then he looks at you like, I don't know it. This one, I'm going to go with, what do I do? I say you don't know this album.
Fair enough.
UFO Obsession.
Don't know it.
Oh, my God.
Right on the money. Right on the money.
It's UFO's best album, folks, and that's not up for debate. Folks, I'm telling you right now, this UFO Obsession album is one of the greatest rock and roll underground. I call it underground because your mainstream don't know this album, but it is a great, great record. I will say it is a lot better than Ace Frehley's solo record. So,
all right, now just stop it there.
is everyone sitting? Neil Diamond released "You Don't Bring Me Flowers."
Oh.
Oh, it looks like Heatwave came out with an album that year too. A lot of funk stuff was getting good at this time.
Right. I know Earth, Wind, and Fire came out with stuff, right?
78 Earth, Wind, and Fire's greatest hits came out with the song September
Oh,
and Get You Into My Life, which weren't on any other records. That's a great...
And that's a great cover. I mean, from a bad... again, that's the Sgt. Pepper movie.
There we go. Hold on. Let me just say this. I just said a minute ago, in fact, it's on one of my videos where I said the greatest cover of all time is Got to Get You Into My Life.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Dreams I'll Never See. Folks, we're going to have to do this on my channel, have a battle of the which cover's better. Dreams I'll Never See by Molly Hatchet or Got to Get You Into My Life by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's going to be close. It's funny where, sometimes you find out a song was a cover and you're like, oh, well, this early version stinks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mind Dreams by the Allman Brothers. I just think it's not that great.
Oh.
You can tune a piano.
But you cannot tune the fish.
That's right. That's what Ariel Speedwagon said in 1978, which had that song you mentioned.
Time for Me to Fly?
Folks, if you want to see Chris and I perform this, we've done this many times. Poco Legend came out in 1978 with two of my all-time favorite songs, Crazy Love and In the Heart of the Night.
Song.
Bobby Caldwell came out with his eponymous album, What You Won't Do for Love. Yeah. You tried everything. Also, Larry Carlton's first solo album came out, which I love that album. It's one of my all-time favorite guitar records.
Larry Graham? Didn't Larry Graham have an album out that year?
He came out with a cracker that year. The Larry Graham cracker. Al Di Meola came out with Casino. And if you've heard of the album Elegant Gypsy, then you've casino it. Thank you. It's a David Spade joke about Goodfellas and Casino. Bill Bruford has a great album called Feels Good to Me, which I actually own and enjoy. George Thorogood came out with an album, and we still can't bury it.
If you get two, you can have matching coasters.
Exactly. Exile came out with Kiss You All Over.
Kiss You All Over. And nothing else.
No. In fact, that was written by Mickey Chapman, who wrote a lot of the sweet early hits like Ballroom Blitz.
Mm-hmm.
Japan had an album called Obscure Alternatives, and it wasn't one of my favorite of Japan records, but I do love Japan. Whitesnake had an album called Snake Bite,
I know Whitesnake had an album out.
and it's great. I love early Whitesnake up till the Slide It In from '84. Andrew Gold came up with All This in Heaven Too. Thank You for Being a Friend.
That's right. Okay.
John Williams released the Superman soundtrack.
Oh.
And that means Maureen McGovern must have asked us, can you read my mind? No.
No, that was before Margot Kidder lost her marbles.
Andy Gibb came out with Shadow Dancing before he had that tryst with Madam on Solid Gold.
Who didn't?
We all love Madam. You know, there's a town here in Massachusetts called Wayland. And I always wonder, like, I looked in the, and this is a true story, folks. I looked up to see if they had a florist because I can't for the life of me imagine that a florist wouldn't call themselves Wayland Flowers and Madam.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't know. It's phenomenal.
It writes itself.
I would go out of my way to get flowers there. April Wine, First Glance, 78. She's the roller.
Yep.
She's a roller. That's a great record. Great record. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. I believe the Ruddles had an album out that year. I'm not kidding. The Ruddles did release an album in 78.
Who knew? Rory
Rory Gallagher had an album called Photo Finish. I was never into him. I don't get it. I don't know. Some people love him, and that's cool. I don't connect with it, with the music.
Fair enough.
It looks like Cold Chisel had a record. Cold Chisel with Jimmy Barnes. Barnes, everybody.
Fair enough.
Steely Dan's Greatest Hits came out in 78. I believe that had Here at the Western World, which I liked that record a lot. Looks like the Pointer Sisters put out a record. Nobody asked them to, they just did. They did it on their own volition.
Right. They should have gotten permission.
Oh, Cruisin' from the Village People.
Oh, now you're talking. That was huge.
What a band.
They were
Chaka
fantastic.
Khan's first album came out.
Now,
With
doesn't
Woman.
Rufus and Shaka also have an album out that year?
If they did, it wasn't good. Her solo album that year, her good records with Rufus was the one with Sweet Thing.
Good. Yeah.
And the one Rags to Rufus.
Yep.
1978, there was an album called, and it's not here, this is on the top of my head, Worlds Away by Pablo Cruz.
Pablo Cruz.
I'll find a way. Hey, I said it's all. Ooh, Champagne Jam by Atlanta Rhythm Section with Imaginary Lover.
Yes.
Love that song. You're right. The album by Rufus was called Street Player.
Okay.
Steve Martin put out A Wild and Crazy Guy.
Now, is that with King Tut on there? Is that...
I would imagine. I don't.
Yeah.
The Halloween soundtrack came out that year from John Gardner. Yeah.
That song still is timeless. Great song.
Shakedown Street came out. For all you Grateful Dead fans.
Now, is it possible that the Grateful Dead album was released in 77, but it just took a year to play it?
Right. That's the fucking... I got the box set. Oh, I didn't know they have a greatest hits. Oh, it's not.
It's one song.
Gino Vanelli, Brother to Brother.
Oh.
That is a friggin' phenomenal record. Carlos Rios on guitar. Mark Clean on drums. Aerosmith Live Bootleg came out.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a good... I liked Live Bootleg.
Sure.
Deep Purple had a best of called When We Rock, We Rock, and When We Roll, We Roll.
And when they don't, they don't.
Right. And when they're too lazy to go in the studio, they put out greatest hits. Gary Moore had an album called Back on the Streets. Shalimar.
Oh, Shalimar.
Had an album called Disco Garden, but I don't know if that's this album with Second time around. I think that was 79. All right, so I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, TV, we had like Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days.
Days.
You had Love Boat
Three's
on
Company.
Saturday nights. Yeah, Three's Company.
Fantasy Island.
You had Fantasy Island.
Yep.
And I'll do the joke I always do. Boss, what's his fantasy? His fantasy requires a midget. This episode will not be airing tonight.
Yep.
Right. Boss, what's his fantasy? His fantasy is to go back to when he was in school to realize if he lost the love of his life. Really? No, he wants to bang those three broads over there. Thank you, folks. Fantasy Island, the Love Boat.
Yeah, the Dukes of Hazzard. That was the Dukes.
Great. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
It really is. In fact, that brings up some country stuff. I think Steve Wariner put out a record in 78. Yeah, there's just so much good music. So 3 records, 1978 going 3, 2, 1 to your favorite. Let's hear them.
I have to go with Sgt. Pepper's for 3, just because it was my first exposure to the Beatles, even with the updated the Bee Gees take on it. So that got me curious, and I kind of went back into the back catalog of the Beatles. 2, I'd have to say the Paul Stanley solo album. I must have listened to that 1,000 times. But number 1 for me, Kiss Alive 2.
That's 77. You can't go Kiss Alive 2.
I got it in 78. I'm going with that.
It doesn't matter. Come on, pick out a 78 record.
All right, then give me Double Platinum.
Double Platinum was a good album.
It was. If you could just get rid of, Strutter 78.
I don't know why they did that.
Because disco was a thing, and they wanted to try to capitalize on it. And that's when they came out with, if you remember, one of the worst movies in history was Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Oh, my God. It's phenomenal.
Still, I watch it just because of how terrible it is.
What's his name? Anthony Zerbe?
What? Abner Devereaux.
I love him. He plays the torch on an episode of Cannon.
Oh, good.
He's on every cop show in the 70s. Is his last name Zerbe? Yeah, Zerbe. Anthony Zerbe. Oh, he's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
He really is good, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, so my 3 from 1978, and it's going to be tough because now I think that UFO came out, and I'm not a UFO fan. I just think Obsession is such a great album for them. I think it's phenomenal, but it's not going to make my list. My list is going to start with the Rolling Stones' Some Girls. My second album, I'm going to say, is Double Vision.
Okay.
Foreigner.
Strong album.
I'm going to say, for me, it is Van Halen 1.
Yeah. Great album.
I don't know if it's true. Minute by Minute might be better. It's something produced by Ted Templeman. I don't know. It's so close. Oh, you know what other soundtrack came out that year? Is FM.
Oh, yeah?
FM with Jackson Browne and God. So much good music.
78 was crazy.
Folks, the more we do the years, the more I realize that I'm right. That 1980 is the greatest year for music. However, we will continue this quest. Chris, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And if anyone's in the Boston area and you want to hear a DJ play Barry Manilow, Seals and Crofts, and the solo albums to Kiss, Big Daddy Entertainment.
And I will.
We also play in an acoustic trio with him, Emily, and myself. We play, what do we call that? The K-Tel Sessions Experience.
Yeah.
And does anybody know why on the Sessions, when Sessions presents every album, no matter what the fucking topic is, no matter if it's slow jams or fast dance songs, Nights in White Satin is on every album.
Every single one.
Can somebody tell me what the hell's going on? It's like, these are the songs that taught you how to love. And like you see, if you see me, look away. Baby,
Yeah.
look away. All these like 80s love songs. I'm high on Survivor, and then all of a sudden you hear Nights in White. And I'm like, what the fuck? Song taught me how to take a dump. Didn't teach me how to cold hearted love that
Yeah,
rules night. Hey, buddy, do the poetry on your own time. Finish the tune. Oh, that is the tune.
that is not on my watch.
Cold-hearted orb that rule. Hey, I'd love to have been the producer on that record.
Oh,
Cold-hearted orb. Hey, guys, what the fuck is this? You read poetry on your own time. Jesus. What do you
that's
guys
great.
want to be on every fucking K-Tel record?
Success.
Sessions presents the song. These monster ballads, they taught you how to love.
It was probably on Freedom Rock too.
Right. These are the songs that taught you how to make love. And then they cut to a guy playing acoustic guitar. Stick your penis in her. What? Lubricate her first. Right? It's like, oh, they really did teach you how to love. I never knew the lyrics till I went back and listened. They told me that these are the songs that taught us how to love. I had to go back and listen again. The guy's like, yeah, slowly take 2 fingers in a circular motion. It's like, what the hell? I didn't know that's how high on you went. All right. Thanks. Hey, I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. Again, thank Chris Turcotte,
Thank you.
Big Entertainment, for being on the show. The show goes up either every Thursday or Friday, depending on my lazy level of editing and getting it up. And very good.
Thank you, sir.